It is Monday, April 22nd, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. It was very educational. Get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. I did get educated and humiliated and educated again. But you know, sometimes the best lessons are defeats. You know, they kind of teach you the most about where the holes in your game are. And this guy just kept getting me with the Kimura, with the arm over my head. Like, you know, I'd have my arms bent at like a 90-degree angle, like trying to shield my head or something. And he would just like slip his arms in there and got you again, got you again. God damn it. So anyway, like I said, it was kind of a humiliating get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. And what I hate about it is the guy and I get along really great. You know, we have a lot of personal chemistry there as far as like, you know, friendship goes and whatnot. However, he is way better than I am. He's like so much better that I told him today. He's like, you know, we're rolling and whatnot, and I looked down at his blue belt, and I said, you know, you really shouldn't wear that. It's a lie. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? This gi? And I grabbed his belt, and I shook it, and I go, no, this thing. This is a lie. He's like, hey, man, it works for me. And just what was funny about it is I'm like, whatever, carpetbagger, and then I did take him down. So, you know, there was some justice in the world today. I did get a takedown on him, but I'd argue that he gave it to me. I mean, this guy is like so much better than I am that, like, if I get anything, I feel like I just put my fucking flag on the moon. Okay, you know, we achieved something today. You know, there was like a progression, and even then, I feel like he gave me the opening to get it. You know, it's like this guy's a fucking ninja. He's posing as a blue belt, and he, you know, I like him a lot though. So I'm very conflicted. You know, it's like, come on, dude, I want you to be a little more serious with me, but at the same time, you know, I don't want you to like hurt me or anything. You know, I don't want you to like push it so far that I'm getting broken or whatever in between. But at least a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like I rolled against a couple lower belts today, and both times I didn't try to really push. You know, I tried to push enough, right? You know, not so much that I was like discouraging him from ever wanting to roll again, but you know, at the same time, I rolled with this one kid, and I got him twice in like 3 minutes or whatever. But then, you know, I did break it up a little bit. I got him once, and then the second time, it was more something where I was allowing him to exert his energy. You know, I wanted to feel where he was trying to go. And so when I was doing things on, you know, to counter him or whatever, I was really trying really hard not to throw strength behind it. You know, and use things more like angle and pressure and whatnot. And so I really tried to use the opportunity to push my technique more. You know, and I did one thing kind of neat. I swapped from one half guard to another on the same leg, and I thought it was a pretty smooth transition. But anyway, like I said, I used it as more a tool. You know, instead of trying to over dominate him or whatever, I tried to let him get me into a compromising position, and I think he's just not. He doesn't have it quite there yet, you know. But he is starting to put a little pressure on me, and that I like. You know, it's like, it's okay, guy. You can do that. This is the place to do that in. You know, you can push it a little bit farther than, you know, you do with your kid brother in the living room or something like that here, because we got pads on the floor. There's no concrete here, and so. You know, like I said, I was trying to make it more comfortable for him to engage, you know, And I think that's probably the toughest part I have with regard to jiu-jitsu, is that I have certain habits, and they're not necessarily bad habits. They're just not. It's just not good to fall into them. It's not a good thing to be locked into them, because then you become really, really predictable, and you lose some of your other game. If you're constantly using certain tools, you're not exercising the other parts of your game. And so I was trying to keep that in mind, and so I selected primarily guys that were higher ranked than myself today as far as who I worked with. And I think I made one or two exceptions as far as like what lessons or whatever we were doing. But anyway, I tried to concentrate on getting with people that are higher ranked than I am, so at least they'll have like the things like the body mechanics down, because it was a little more advanced class today, so there were some movements that I had difficulty with. And it's funny because I had the wrong hand grips on this takedown maneuver we were doing, and even having the wrong grips, I was able to take down my opponent or my teammate or whatever, however you want to call him in this context. I was able to take him down even with the mishandling on the grips. So it was kind of funny because the first sequence I did it the entire time with the wrong hands. And I had a grip on the lapel, whereas I was supposed to have a grip on the wrist and then a grip up over the shoulder. And nonetheless, I still managed to get my opponent down in a believable fashion. So I don't feel it was entirely lost as far as like opportunities and whatnot go. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down into some music. And I was drifting down here, and it dawned on me, we usually like to start with a little bit of body count. And so I don't see why that should be any different today. And so here it is. The Ski Mask Way. Here on Coin Metal, First Dance. And that was Killing Joke with Asteroid. Yes. Love that fucking song. Anywho, getting into it. We keep hearing this same fucking thing over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, we heard this so often between, I want to say, like 2013 and 2016. And as a matter of fact, I think there was even a scare in 2017. That somebody actually made a video and posted it on YouTube. And it was like how to get the price for Bitcoin to go down. And it was somebody did. They took the Chinese restaurant guy, City Walk, whoever the character is that runs that. Anyway, he was trying to figure out how to get Bitcoin to go down, and so he calls somebody up and he says, "Oh, I'm Chinese finance minister. We ban Bitcoin." And the price tanks, and then they buy Bitcoin, and so on and so forth. But anyway, it's up there on YouTube, and it's like it went from beyond becoming a meme. Like it became a meme, and then we heard it so often that somebody made a fucking cartoon out of it. And so here it is. No, China didn't ban Bitcoin mining. Reports of Bitcoin's death are, as always, exaggerated. This is by Zach Wheeler, authored April 22nd, 2019. If you've gone anywhere near the internet this month, you've probably heard about the untimely demise of China's Bitcoin mining industry. As reported in many media outlets, some 3/4 of Bitcoin mining is now non grata in the People's Republic, which appears to have taken an unusually firm stand on environmental protection. But, as often occurs in the cryptoverse, news of Bitcoin mining's death is widely exaggerated. Contrary to what our mainstream media friends at Bloomberg Business News Network and Forbes have published, China did not ban crypto mining this month. that may be confusing if you are reading the following headlines. Bullet point 1. China plans to ban cryptocurrency mining in renewed clampdown. Bullet point 2. China's shutdown of Bitcoin miners isn't just about electricity. Bullet point 3. China says Bitcoin mining is wasteful. Now it wants to ban mining. These lurid titles went on to explain in their alarming articles that China mines close to 75% of Bitcoin globally, and that the country is concerned with, quote, wasted energy and criminal activity, and that the majority cryptocurrency giants such as Bitmain could be forced to relocate. One quote by Bloomberg read, quote, Beijing was said to have asked local agencies at the time to try and push miners out of business. These quotes and headlines had a lot of readers concluding that China will ban cryptocurrency mining as they did with ICOs and domestic spot trading in 2017, which caused Binance to flee. This ICO ban was put forth by the People's the People's Bank of China, PBOC, financial regulators, and other government agencies directly within the Chinese central government. Here's what really happened in April. The National Development and Reform Commission, NDRC, is China's macroeconomic planner, and the commission proposed thousands of industries that it would like to encourage, limit, and eliminate. This document was only published in Mandarin, and according to Catherine Wu, one line item among thousands in the, quote, elimination section of the 130-page document read, quote, the mining of virtual currencies such as the mining process for Bitcoin and other virtual currencies. The NDRC has maintained this public list of industries since 2005, and it amends it every couple of years. This section typically includes business activities that the country feels are wasteful and harmful to the environment. In 2016, beverage packaging was listed for elimination. Comments close on this proposal on May 7th, so as of right now, the public list isn't even finalized. When finalized, and assuming mining remains in the elimination section, some Chinese provinces may choose to avoid prioritizing this motion, because they like money. According to Dovey Wan, who analyzed the 2011 guideline, most industries listed in the 2011 version have been unaffected and are still present in the newest guideline. She also noted that the implementation of these guidelines, if they are ever put into effect, will take tens of years, and there will be minimal impact on local mining. This could spell trouble down the road for China's miners, especially as competition increases from the country's growing industrial sector. For now, we'll wait until May 7th, when the NDRC list becomes official. When the mainstream headlines suggest that the sky is falling, it's wise to look up before you panic. I couldn't agree more. And I felt this was a misread too. As a matter of fact, I think I actually read the report or that article, the Mandarin article. As a matter of fact, from what I recall, we used the internet, the power of the internet, the immense power and awesome strength of the internet, and we looked up Google, and we used Google Translate, and we translated the fucking thing from Mandarin, and we read it here. What was it? I think it was either last week or the week before. Either way, it exemplifies this thing I was talking about, where you get one report saying one thing, you get another report saying another thing. Oftentimes it's mistranslated from here to China, and of course, when we're talking about mainstream media providers, they literally lie. I mean, lie. They infer so much bullshit. It's like anybody who's really paid any attention to, any real attention, and I'm talking about more than watching shit on CNN. Anyone who's paid real attention to the whole DNC quote-unquote hack knows that it wasn't Russian hackers, knows that it was Seth Rich, and knows that that's probably why he was killed on a city street. But the point being that I'm watching CNN, and just to do it, it was, flipping channels or something like that. Anyway, I got CNN on, and they're blabbing on about how they're going to impeach Trump over this bullshit, over the Mueller report that's like pretty much proved him pretty much innocent of everything they've been asserting for the last 2 years. So, I'm not saying the man's innocent or whatever. I'm not even going to get into that realm. But the point being is, they drummed up all of this shit, all of it, off of what the DNC was saying. They didn't. It's like the rest of the world didn't fucking exist. They relied on representatives of the DNC and the nominees themselves, and said, "Oh, okay, we're just going to give them a AAA rating on their credibility, and ignore everything else going on around this particular subject." We had Mr. McAfee on here at one point. No, I hope to have him on here again soon. Anyway, we had him on here, and he was saying straight out that if he wanted to convince any investigators that were coming thereafter to try and track him down or whatever, that he was somebody else, say Russian hackers, he would do certain things, leave certain little footprints to indicate it was a Russian hacker. But beyond all of that, the WikiLeaks is where all of the information really came from, or came out into the public through. It went from Seth Rich to WikiLeaks, and WikiLeaks has actually confirmed this. It's one of the reasons why they want to get rid of Julian Assange. It's not just what he knows, and it's not just what he has tucked away in case of his untimely demise, but also the fact that he has outed information that has damaged people in the appropriate ways, and in a just society, it would be completely legit, and we would let him walk. We would let him free for exposing it, and we would be trying to rectify the situation to where the situation that he outed isn't happening, or that we're not actually participating in that shit. That would be the reasonable thing to do, right? Anyway. But aside from all that bullshit, this China thing, China miners, there's certain realities that you have to face when it comes to Bitcoin mining and China. There are many, many, many advantages to doing your mining in China. For one thing, cheap, if not free, electricity. And this is something that's been outed multiple times, that they've got these itty bitty towns out in the middle of nowhere, all over the Chinese landscape, and they've set up coal powered plants to electrify these little places, and link them up to the rest of the quote unquote society and whatnot. But they've got all of this electricity, and once they get the coal-fired plants up and running, it's more expensive to shut them back down again than it is to just leave them running and keep throwing the coal in there. And so they've been doing that for like the last decade, where they go out to the middle of nowhere, they run the power lines out there so they can at least bring the power back into the grid at some point or another. And so what happened there is they developed all this production of electricity capacity, right? But they weren't really doing anything with it. They're powering the lights, keeping what minimal internet capacity they had going out to those itty bitty places. Telecommunications, that business, media. So along comes mining, and all of a sudden we can actually utilize that electricity to make money with. So the electricity is more or less free as far as the Chinese are concerned. That's one. Two, it's all dependent upon hardware, i.e. miners. And of course some of it's on GPUs and whatnot. But most of that shit comes from China. So rather than the hardware having to traverse the ocean to somewhere else, or cross land to somewhere else, it's simply being used in China. And because you don't have to transport it anywhere, it's eminently cheaper to buy it in China. So that's number 2. Number 3, when there are upgrades in miners, the first people to get them are the miners in China. So this is like a perpetual advantage that they have. Now, of course, all of this can change radically. Where, say in Russia, over the next decade, they spend, a shit ton of money to increasing their internet bandwidth capacity all over the continent, and maybe they find some new power source or whatnot, or maybe even China gets even further into the production of solar panels and selling those to the rest of the world. Anyway, the point I was getting to is if there is a shift in things like electricity, the availability of cheap electricity to free electricity, if there were chip production somewhere else, that would be another shift. Say if Intel, if they were to expand their Washington site and start cranking out nothing but miners out of there, all of a sudden all of the vendors that are using their chips, they would be in a position to be able to really threaten China's dominance with regard to mining. So again, but there are realities behind China and mining in China that make it very, very unlikely that the government, even the PBOC, is going to come down and say, "Oh, we don't want this anymore. We want to turn all of this off. We want to kill all the demand for all of the chips that we're selling all over the fucking planet, and put our foot up our own ass and ban mining here in China." Give me a fucking break. That's such a crazy notion when you think about it in that context. I mean, when you put all of it together, okay, not just the money that they're making on selling their coin to the rest of the planet, but things like selling the miners to the rest of the planet, and all the other computer infrastructure that goes along with that. When you look at what that means to them, the likelihood of them cutting the cord on mining becomes really, 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 really tiny. I mean, we're talking about money here. It's all about incentives. And incentivizing the termination of business within your borders is a really fucking stupid thing to do. Of course, the U.S. hasn't figured that out yet. I mean, we will. I think the continued migration away from New York and even Silicon Valley is going to bear that out over the longer term. That we are going to see other concentrations of tech, like Austin, Texas, or somewhere, Boulder, Colorado, or someplace like that, where it's away from these like echo chambers of political correctness and other bullshit, and people are a lot more pragmatic about what they're doing. They're far more efficiency minded, But with the political front, and we should have some representation there, I think, at some point or another. I got this article here on Coindesk.com. Coinbase's Political Action Committee shuts down without ever raising a cent. This is by Nicholas D. It was authored April 22nd, 2019, 2230 UTC. Coinbase is moving to shut down its Political Action Committee, PAC, without ever raising a cent. The San Francisco-based crypto exchange filed a termination report, which we are going to right-click on, for its Political Action Committee on April 3, 2019, according to publicly available documents on Federal Election Commission's website, FEC. The move means that the exchange wants to shut down its PAC, though it was not immediately clear if the committee had actually been shut down. A Coinbase spokesperson confirmed that the exchange had filed to shut down its PAC, but could not say if the FEC has granted the request yet. PACs are typically formed to raise funds on behalf of specific candidates for public office or business and ideological interests. However, the Coinbase PAC did not raise any funds, nor did it back any candidates during its 10-month lifespan, public filings show. Personnel change. The exchange first launched its PAC in June of 2018 and was run by former Chief Policy Officer Mike Lempres, who left the exchange last year to join venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz. Brian Brooks, who joined Coinbase as Chief Legal Officer in September, was the likely candidate to have taken over the PAC following Lempres' departure. According to the FEC's website, a committee can file to terminate its operation if, quote, it no longer receives or intends to receive contributions, or if it, quote, no longer makes or intends to make expenditures. That said, the committee is required to continue regularly filing disclosure reports until the FEC accepts the termination report, the site explained, adding, quote, committees shouldn't stop filing just because they checked the, quote, termination report box on their regular campaign finance disclosure form. Committees must file regularly scheduled reports until the commission notifies them in writing that it has granted their request to terminate. Dude, can you imagine that? You're trying to get away and they say, nope, can't do it. Cannot do it. Let's look at this. Receipts and disbursements of the file. Oh, it's just it's a report by them for Federal Election Commission. Yeah. I don't see that. I don't see that working out all that well. It's one of the problems with being part of the Panopticon is that it doesn't want to look away. It wants to stay. Anyway, as far as China and Bitcoin mining, yeah, it's going to continue on. And with regard to this other thing, oh man. I don't know. I don't know what to think of Coinbase anymore. They charge way too high, and yeah, like I said, their fees are outrageous, and they do seem to be introducing a lot of coins that have been questionable. I mean, like Ripple. I don't know how. I don't know why, but they decided they were going to add Ripple. I mean, that one really surprised me. I mean, it's been in the request column for about I don't know, at least 2 years now. So anyway, I do have this one other article I wanted to get into before we break in any kind of music, and this one only mildly interests me because we have been covering like BSV and all that shit, and I'm always curious when people stipulate some reason as to why it's happening. You know, we've looked at the hash rate on this show, and I think the last time I checked it was like 8 exahashes or something like that. Or no, I'm sorry, terahashes. It wasn't in exahashes, it was in terahashes. But the point being that, you know, that's pretty low for a Bitcoin fork. I mean, I don't know how it would pair up against, like, you know, Bitcoin Private or Bitcoin Black or Bitcoin Gold or any of those, but I would wager there's probably more hash power on BSV than those, but still, it's pretty low for a variant of Bitcoin is all I'm saying. Anyway, let's get into this. BCH politics and exchange corruption. This is authored on April 22nd by Kevin Smith, the same guy that made Mallrats? No, can't be. Anyway, continuing. BCH promoters and exchanges have always advocating, quote, free market, aka let the markets decide. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, friends politics is used to progress BCH and listing on exchanges. How? The delisting of a competition fork, BSV, which was once a partner in BCH's team. Some would consider it censorship and market manipulation controlled by the opposition, BCH. Leaders like Roger Ver. The exchange manipulation makes Wall Street sharks look like amateurs. Kraken CEO Jesse Powell is, quote, Roger Ver's high school friend. Go figure, yeah, okay. Roger Ver and CEO of Kraken Exchange are business partners and are demonstrating complete cutthroat control and market manipulation bias to BCH by delisting BSV, BCH's main competitor. And some would consider the original BCH chain. Some, not very many. Now Craig Wright is bad? Well, whatever, dude. I don't know where you've been. Some things to consider. When Craig Wright was being advocated by Roger Ver at conferences and media outlets like CoinDesk and Bitcoin.com news, Kraken seemed to have no issues with then BCH advocating by Mr. Craig Wright, who was claiming to be Satoshi. Not a hint of negative from Kraken, nor its CEO or Shapeshift CEO, friend of Roger, Eric Voorhees, or any other platform that just delisted BSV. But why? But suddenly now, when Craig Wright does not advocate BCH anymore and become direct competitor with the same marketing strategy to, quote, claim to be the real Bitcoin, then suddenly Craig Wright was not tolerated anymore. But what happened to, quote, we are all Craig Wright campaign Roger was pushing? What great timing, you say. It seems to platform gatekeepers loyal to Roger Ver are playing the public like well-trained politicians. And suddenly every friend and CEO of an exchange who tolerated Craig Wright selling BCH coin at conferences suddenly does not. In my opinion, because it's a BCH competitor and not sanctioned by BCH founders Roger Ver and Jihan Wu. What happened to let the market decide? If you delist BSV, you must delist BCH. But suddenly free market and let the market decide does not count for other coins like BSV, only for BCH coin, and that the CEOs are personal friends with. Dude, you know what? I'm done reading this thing. Kevin, I know it wasn't you. This person that's like got your name or whatever, he sucks. He doesn't write very well. I gotta wonder about the rest of the articles here concerning. Yeah, never mind. Bye bye. Anyway, you know, there is personal politics involved in everything. However, I gotta wonder how much of what kind of veracity there is to these claims. You know, especially with regard to Roger Ver. You know, the dude's obviously playing a lot of chess with a lot of people, and I mean that's just clear by what's going on crypto Twitter. But at the same time, I've been really kind of weird about his alliances. I don't really understand, you know, some of the moves that he's made, or you know, that Bitcoin Cash has made. I still say that they were perfectly fine with like 32 megabytes. I mean, that's a decent sized block, and you know, for the most part, it fits most of Bitcoin Cash's transactions every 10 minutes, if not all of them. For the most part, it does. So why the big need to jump to 128? I really didn't see any need for it. But, you know, that is something of let the market decide. You know, and again, my feelings on any kind of technology that's going on in the cryptosphere, you've got to evaluate this stuff for yourself. You really do. You know, it's a level of freedom that you've never enjoyed before, and so I know it's kind of easy to assume it doesn't exist, but it really does. So anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And, you know, I haven't been playing a lot off of a lot of new Metallica. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw it down. Moth into Flame, new Metallica, here on Coin Metal. And that was Sixth with Vivid. Anywho, as far as where we're going to go with the rest of this episode, I was digging around a little bit on the internet. I had some sort of system failure a little bit earlier, not today, but like yesterday or something like that. So of course I lost all of my tabs. Nonetheless, thank goodness we have things like CoinDesk, because then I can just look up an article or two that fits what I'm going to. And so here we are on CoinDesk.com. Bittrex. North Korean accounts flagged by NYDFS were South Korean. This is by Mark Hochstein. My apologies there, sir. This is authored April 22nd, 2019. So yes, penis. Crypto exchange Bittrex said Monday that New York regulators erred in identifying two of its users as North Korean. In a statement issued Monday, Bittrex said it had reviewed two accounts that were flagged as belonging to residents of the sanctioned country by the NYDFS, which recently rejected the exchange's application for a BitLicense. It turned out that these same two users had already been investigated by the exchange in October of 2017, Bittrex said, adding, quote, South Korean residents mistakenly selected North Korea in our country drop-down menu, but we determined through country identification, physical, and IP address that all were from South Korea. In an op-ed published in CoinDesk Thursday, Shirin Amami, the Executive Director Superintendent for Banking at NYDFS, stated that when the agency's examiners sampled Bittrex accounts earlier this year, they identified two based in North Korea. More may exist, she wrote. Quote, at least one North Korean account was active into 2017, along with two accounts in another sanctioned country, Iran, that were active during the year's examination. You know what, hun? One thing, were they actually sanctioned at the time that the individual was operational? If not, then, you know, you can go blow chunks. And there's something going on with my program here. Of course, it's cutting out on me. And we got to reconnect and do all that business because, you know, these things just happen. But fortunately, we actually record this stuff and we're continuous about it. So we don't have to worry about that shit. Anywho, as I was saying, so yeah, this North Korea business with the... Anyway, continuing on. In an op-ed published in CoinDesk Thursday, okay, we covered that. More may exist. In a rebuttal issued the same day, Bittrex denied having any accounts in either country this year, but Monday's statement represented the first time the country explained why NYDFS might have thought two of the accounts in question were North Korean. Probably because they have no intention to ever give Bittrex a bit license. They got that control, baby, and they want to keep it. Anyway, continuing. Sanctions compliance is one of the several issues NYDFS cited for denying a license to Bittrex, along with broader anti-money laundering practices and the exchange's coin listing process. A Bittrex spokesperson said that the company had, quote, nothing to add regarding the alleged Iranian accounts. An NYDFS spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Yeah, of course not. Yeah, like I said, there's a good chance that there's a discrepancy between the duration of time that Iran had been sanctioned in that particular way and a little bit of regulatory overlap there, where they did have an individual who was an Iranian account holder who probably terminated their account or had their account terminated by Bittrex, but the NYDFS is looking back counteractively and saying, hey, wait a minute, this thing back in 2017, knowing full well that the sanction didn't actually go into effect until 2018. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, this is all a bunch of fucking nitpicky bullshit. The fact of the matter is that the NYDFS had a hand all the way up Bittrex's ass for the last 4 years. And they are only now saying, oh no, we're not going to give you guys a bit license because of this and this. If there were an agency in legacy finance, that isn't like the NYDFS itself, and I would doubt seriously that they would actually be able to endure the same level of regulatory compliance requests and whatnot that have been doled out to Bittrex in this. I mean, nobody said they were going to play fair, and when I read Bit License, and I've got it around here somewhere that I actually recorded myself reading Bit License, and I read the whole fucking thing. It's like 26 pages, and I managed to squeeze it all into one episode. Nonetheless, when I was reading the thing, I'm like, dude, they're basically turning the NYDFS into king of crypto, who has completely arbitrary power to issue a bit license or deny one, can make up fucking excuses on the spot why they can deny one. Doesn't matter what your market reputation is, doesn't matter what your market performance is, doesn't matter your regulatory compliance. If they don't fucking like you, they're not going to give you a motherfucking bit license. Doesn't matter how much you pay them in appliance, it doesn't matter. There might be some other requests going on in the background that we're just not hearing about here because they're outright corruption. Where the NYDFS is saying you will list, Ripple to do something, a Ripple-based pair or some shit like that. You will do this or you will not get a bit license. And Bittrex is saying, you will not run our fucking exchange, fuck self. And so they're not getting a bit license. We're only going to see this shit continue for a little while, I think. I think in the longer term, many in government are going to recognize that this regulatory kerfuffle that the NYDFS and the SEC and the FDIC and all these motherfuckers that think that they've got something to say about how crypto should run are actually acting counteractive to the efficacy of cryptocurrencies in this country, in the US. And in the meantime, China, they're just doing what they're going to do. I would bet you full well that there's plenty of ICO trading going on in China. And they're just not telling anybody about it. They're not telling you about it. And they're not telling the PBOC either. They're just not aware of it. But it's going on. They've got like accounts in Hong Kong or Singapore or some shit like that, where they're able to trade through those conduits, and the PBOC is none the wiser and really doesn't give a shit, because those people are making money doing it, but they're not spending the money in Shanghai, and they're not spending the money in Hong Kong. No. They're spending it in Shenzhen, China, or some shit like that. Some place within the border of China. And so the whole concern about, regulatory capture of fiat currency, it's not really a concern. I think a lot of the outward-facing policy that we hear about here in the U.S. and elsewhere is just a bunch of fluff. We see such blatant abuses of it. Like with regard to Japan, and I think it was BitThumb. I think they might have been the exchange in question, but they fluffed off 2 regulatory warnings. The Japanese regulators came to them and said, "Look, dude, you've got some serious security issues, and you should probably do something about it like forthwith. And we're only going to extend your license for another 45 days. If we haven't heard back from you by then with the report saying how you've improved them, we're seriously going to consider terminating your license." 45 days comes up, there's been no change, there's been no improvement, and they say, alright, well, we're seriously considering terminating your license, and so you might want to actually rectify your shit. And 15 days later, they ended up getting hacked. Lost, I don't know, a couple $1 million worth of fucking crypto. I can't recall the exact number, but they lost a shit ton of money. I think it was actually $20 million worth. And it was just like, que sera, sera. So we lost some money. Sorry, dude. There's... Again, you cannot have that kind of laxity with regard to this, because we are talking about money. We're talking about other people's money. And if we are going to entertain the fallacy that these regulatory agencies are actually doing anything, then they actually have to be providing some sort of recourse themselves, and they're not. The only recourse that we actually see is from the crypto community. Way back when Bitfinex got hacked, they created the BFX token and allowed live trading of it on their exchange. Now, whether or not the trade volumes were legit, or whether or not there was actually manipulation on there, I personally was made whole from the whole endeavor. And I know that hundreds of other users were made whole from the endeavor. Whether or not it was thousands, that's questionable. Because some people just panic sold and all that. And to tell you the truth, I did. But then I saw an opportunity to buy back in at a way lower price than I sold at, and so I took it. There's plenty of manipulation on the exchanges, but if you're not playing on the fucking nanosecond, you don't experience a lot of it. You have some opportunity to actually examine the fucking chart, look in the book, and make some educated decision about what to do. Rather than just trying to play it on the, it moved to Satoshi, I better buy. Give me a break. Anyway, so I got this thing here. It's hacked crypto exchange Zafe resuming full services under new owner. Interesting how that happened, right? This is by Daniel Palmer, April 22nd, 2019 at 12:05 UTC. So yes, penis. Japanese cryptocurrency exchange Zafe, which was hacked for about $60 million last year, is under new management. The exchange announced on its corporate website, which we're going to right-click on Friday, that as of Monday, April 22nd, the firm will have signed over its business to publicly listed Japanese investment firm Fisco, and full operations will be reinstated on Tuesday. The plan for the takeover was first aired in October of 2018 and sees the exchange pass from its previous owner, Tech Bureau, to an existing crypto exchange owned Fisco. Friday's post indicates that the deal cost Fisco 5 billion Japanese yen, about $44.675 million US dollars. That's really funny. Because Poloniex sold for about $40 million too. That's weird. Anyway, continuing on. In its September 2018 hack, Zaif lost approximately 7 billion yen, about $62.5 million, in the Bitcoin, Monocoin, MONA, and Bitcoin Cash cryptocurrencies. Since then, Zaif said Friday, registration of new members has been suspended, while trading, depositing, and withdrawing MONA has been on hold since October 10, 2018. As of tomorrow, those services will be reinstated. As pledged previously, the exchange has now refunded users that lost holdings in the breach. The firm explained that holders of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash were refunded their original cryptocurrency, but due to liquidity issues with the token MONA, holders received about 60% in the crypto and the remainder in Japanese yen for compensation at the rate of 148.548 yen per MONA. As reported last November, cybersecurity experts at Japan Digital Design, a subsidiary of Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group, MUFG rather, working in conjunction with other security firms, said that they had found possibly revealing information on the Zaif hackers. After investigating the outflow of Monocoin from the exchange soon after the hack, Japanese Digital Design said it was able to identify the quote source of the attackers. While the details of the findings were not disclosed, the team said it had shared this information with the authorities. There we go. Again, let's look at this announcement, and god damn it, it's in Japanese. That's okay. This is the future, where we can look up Google Translate. There we go. Translate web page, and throw the web page in there. Hit enter, and come on, Google Translate. Google Translate. Let's go to Translate website, iTools. Yeah, there we go. It's funny, this interface looks like crap for something that really does something cool. Oh, it says the URL is... Let's see the original page. See the original page. Damn it, Jim. It says it's not a valid web page. But that's weird, because I'm actually looking at it in Chinese. So, let's try this one more time. Aha! There we go. Apparently the foobar was on my end. Here we go. And this is from Zaif Exchange Notice, Termination of Business Succession. About the end of business succession, business. This is on April 19th, 2019. Thank you for using the virtual exchange Zaif on a daily basis. Regarding business succession from Tech Bureau Co., Ltd. to Fisco Virtual Currency Exchange, hereinafter referred to as, quote, the company, which has been asked by customers since November 2018, the succession business will be taken over from 1300 on April 22nd, 2019, Monday. We will inform you that we will end the from the same time. If you don't agree to the business succession, you will not be able to log into Zaif, and you will not be able to use any of the services. The story so far: hacking September 2018 to Zaif leaks virtual currency. A total of approximately 7 billion yen worth of BTC, MONA, and BCH were leaked in September 2018 due to unauthorized access from outside. Hereinafter this case. Following this incident, the new member registrar onto Zaif was suspended from September 28, 2018, and the Mona transaction and deposit and withdrawal were suspended from October 10, 2018. After that, on conditional of financial report of approximately 5 billion yen, transfer of Zafe business from Tech Bureau Co. Ltd. to us was decided. In addition, we have asked customers via the internet and by phone, etc., for the procedures for consenting to business succession about the damage amount to the customer account. The total outflow of customer deposit assets is as follows. 2,723.4 Bitcoin, yen rate of approximately 1,940,762,281 to 1 Bitcoin. Jesus, that's wild, man. The next one was 5,911,859.3 Mona, and the exchange rate for yen was, at the time, was 636,707,257. I have such a hard time with that valuation. I mean, yen is a fucking Japanese currency. Why the fuck is it so many yen to buy one Mona coin? I'd imagine you'd be able to make a significant sum in the exchange rate arbitrage between yen, US dollars, and Mona. Anyway, continuing on. 40,360 BCH at the conversion rate of 2,09,729,689 yen. Wow. In addition, with regard to the compensation for customers resulting from this case, we have succeeded from Tech Bureau. About compensation to customers who were damaged. Summary of compensation. In order to protect our customers, we procure assets such as virtual currency equivalent to lost money, and have announced the execution of compensation to customers who have the following two rights. Number 1, the right to seek return of the virtual currency you deposited with us. Number 2, right to seek return of remaining virtual currency that has not disappeared. With regard to the compensation for Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, it was possible to procure from the market. About for Mona, whose market volume is scarce compared to Bitcoin, etc., procure a virtual currency equivalent to the amount lost to the current outflow case. The situation was extremely difficult. Therefore, about Mona, it was decided to return about 60% of the total amount that was leaked by Mona itself, and replace the lost part of the 40% with Japanese yen for compensation. The yen conversion rate will be 144,548 yen per Mona. Wait a minute, what was the exchange rate at loss? Oh, that's some bullshit, man. They're robbing you. They lost 5,911,859.3 Mona at the yen conversion rate at the time of 636,707,257 yen per Mona. 636 million. We'll just round it up to that, okay? And they're giving you at the exchange conversion rate of 148,548 yen per Mona. Dude, that is such an ass robbery. Ass rape. Oh my god. That's terrible. Process of compensation. You actually want to call this compensation? Give me a fucking break. Among customers eligible for compensation, meaning not all of you are going to fucking get it, Those who have accepted the transfer to our company by 2 o'clock on November 22nd, 2018 have completed compensation on November 30th of 2018. In addition, on November 12th, 2019, for customers who have accepted the successor to the company from November 22nd, 2008 to March 31st, 2019, compensation was completed. About the future flow. The business succession period from Tech Bureau has ended. To protect the customer, we can extend the business succession period originally planned and make it possible to proceed with the succession even for customers who have not yet taken consent. Although it was a state of affairs, the consent business of the business succession will be finished on 1300 Monday, April 22nd, 2019. From April 23rd, 2019, Mona resumes physical transactions. It is necessary to adjust the balance Mona decrease / Japanese yen increase as compensation support for those who have suffered from this case among customers who have accepted the business succession. It was necessary to complete the consent business completely. From April 1st, 2019, for customers who have accepted by the end of the consenting business, balance adjustments will be conducted after the end of the acceptance work. This will ensure that all your Mona balances are in sync and you're ready to resume trading. After that, Mona physical trading is scheduled to resume from April 23rd, 2019. We will inform you as to when Mona's easy buying and selling resumption of deposit and withdrawal will be made. About the situation about service that is stopped. A service that resumes sequentially when it was... I'm sorry. I'm like completely fucking that one up. A service that resumes sequentially when it is confirmed that there are no problems. The following services are currently not available. It is undecided about the reopening time. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause you. Number 1, sign up. Number 2, coin accumulation. New registration, withdrawal / purchase. 3, counterparty token deposit and withdrawal. Number 4, affiliate program. And number 5, Zafe payment. Thank you in advance for the virtual currency exchange Zafe. That's weird, dude. It's like they're like just seizing it or something. They're not actually like paying anything. And as far as where this, I really don't get this exchange rate, man. They're like literally knocking it down to like 1/50th of what the rightful exchange rate was at the time of the loss. So I mean I don't know how you can count that as some sort of compensation. It's like, oh, you lost $5 million. Here's 100,000. Thank you. Bye bye. I mean, really, that's about what the exchange rate equates to. So, yeah, official interference. That's what I'm going to call this. Anywho, we did so much hunting around with regard to that one that kind of drew me away from where I wanted to go from there. And so this one's on CoinDesk, and this is another leg of that official interference. CFTC Chair Giancarlo hints at what's holding back Bitcoin futures. Honestly, I believe it's regulatory friction, but let's continue. Nicholas D. was the author, and he authored this on April 22nd, 2019 at 14:30 UTC. So yes, penis. The takeaway. Number 1, backed. The proposed Bitcoin futures exchange remains in regulatory limbo. Number 2, CFTC Christopher Giancarlo won't discuss specific proposals, but his general comments about crypto regulation offer hints at the reasons BACT is languishing. Number 3, part of the problem appears to be the firm's plan to custody its own Bitcoin and clears trades through its parent company's clearinghouse. 4. This proposal may present issues both in terms of regulatory jurisdiction and opposition from other clearinghouse participants. When backed, the question has been posed repeatedly since last summer when Intercontinental Exchange, ICE, the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, first revealed its grand vision for a Bitcoin futures trading platform that would help the cryptocurrency to the next level of mass acceptance. BACT has postponed its launch date twice now, including an indefinite delay at the end of 2018. It's widely known that BACT's holdup is regulatory in nature rather than technical, but the specific reasons for the delay have been hazy, the subject of rumor and speculation in crypto legal circles and anonymously sourced news articles. This much is clear. BACT needs the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, to provide a final green light before it can launch. In blog posts, BACT CEO Kelly Loeffler has stated that the exchange is working with the regulator, but offered little in the way of detail. BACT declined to comment for this article. The CFTC, for its part, has kept quiet about BACT, so it's hard to tell where in the process the agency is. However, CoinDesk recently sat down with CFTC Chairman J. Christopher Giancarlo, who became a hero to the crypto community after advocating for a, quote, do no harm approach to regulating the space before Congress in early 2018. While he wouldn't discuss any specific proposals or companies being reviewed, Giancarlo spoke in very general terms about the regulatory issues facing new crypto products, offering insight on how the 45-year-old agency is approaching futures as just one example. And if you read between the lines, his comments offer some clues about the snags BACT has hit. The 80-year-old protocol. Describing the broad contours of the U.S. derivatives regulation, Giancarlo used the language of the community, which is nicknamed him Crypto Dad. Quote, in the world of crypto, everything's based on certain protocols. Well, the law is also a protocol. We work on a really old protocol. In our case, it's over 80 years old, he said, referring to the Commodity Exchange Act of 1936. Quote, it's voluminous. It's thousands of pages of regulations, and it's very detailed. Under this protocol, which also includes state and federal antecedents, and began to take form as far back as the 1860s, regulation of derivatives was bifurcated between the state and federal governments, Giancarlo explained. Quote, the deal that was struck was there'd be federal oversight of the exchanges, derivatives products, certain intermediaries, and the clearinghouses, but entities that actually held custody of financial instruments, like cash, were usually regulated as banks or trusts under state law or a national charter, Giancarlo said. Oh, and right there you could probably enter in the NYDFS as a potential issue because they've previously or currently are in court with the U.S. Treasury over who gets to decide who is a bank. Continuing on. These custodians, which also include commodity warehouses regulated by state-level agencies or by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, hold the underlying assets and deliver them to customers when their futures contracts expire. Quote, even when we have a CFTC-regulated clearinghouse, The clearinghouse uses, quote, state-regulated custodians or a nationally chartered OCC-regulated bank for the actual holding of the funds and securities, Giancarlo said. That said, firms can choose to hold their assets within the clearinghouses themselves. Today, Giancarlo went on, one of the challenges his agency faces coming from evaluating how futures exchanges might store cryptocurrencies. This comes into play when contracts are physically settled, meaning buyers are delivered the actual commodity at expiration. While the Bitcoin futures launched in 2017 by CME Group and CBOE were settled in cash, amounting to side bets on the cryptocurrency's dollar price, backed along with startups ErisX, SeedCX, and LedgerX, aspire to list derivatives contracts settled in real Bitcoin. Quote, "Our statute allows us to regulate the new physically settled cryptocurrencies, but it contemplates an entity using a regulated trust or bank for custody of customer funds unless they opt to hold the assets in the clearinghouse," Giancarlo said. In that light, it starts to make sense why the CFTC has been slow to approve BACT. According to the past announcements, the exchange initially planned to custody Bitcoin through its own, quote, digital warehouse. Since ICE is not a bank or state-regulated custodian, this would have required an exemption to the rules described by Giancarlo. However, Bloomberg reported last Thursday that BACT is now seeking a license from New York State, presumably for a trust company, so it can handle custody. But there's another issue as well, not so clear. Zooming out the lens again, clearinghouses act as intermediaries between buyers and sellers in derivatives markets, ensuring that both parties in a transaction uphold their respective ends of any deal. They also serve to reduce the cost and risk in such transactions, as former Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke explained in a 2011 speech. But the risk isn't totally removed. And one thing there, by operating as a clearinghouse and having to adhere to all of the regulatory cruft that they do, they're also going to experience costs that you would not experience if you were simply buying the fucking Bitcoin off of Coinbase or another exchange. You'd be able to assume physical responsibility over your Bitcoin without the interference of this highly regulated entity that is going to charge you for that regulation in one way or another. Continuing on. But the risk isn't totally removed. It's mutualized along the clearinghouse's member firms. Hence, if a clearinghouse were to hold Bitcoin, in the sense of buying and selling it, not necessarily custodying the private keys, its members would be exposed to the asset's rapid price swings. Quote, "A potential challenge here, and we saw with Bitcoin futures, is that the other asset class participants in the clearinghouse don't always want the exposure to mutualize their risk on the interest rate or commodity futures with somebody else's cryptocurrency holdings," said Giancarlo. Indeed, a number of firms were less than thrilled by CME and CBOE launching Bitcoin futures contracts at the end of 2017. One group of clearinghouses, the Futures Industry Association, even went so far as to write an open letter criticizing the CFTC for allowing this. The letter cited Bitcoin's high volatility at the time as their main cause for concern. Yeah, that's because they can read a fucking chart. Based on what BACT has shared so far, it plans to clear the one-day Bitcoin futures contracts through its parent firm's regulated clearinghouse, ICE Clear US, which would act as the intermediary. So regardless of how backed custodied Bitcoin, it would need to send assets through ICE Clear US to a buyer, raising the question of how that would sit with the clearinghouse members. CoinDesk reached out to a number of ICE Clear US members. A majority of the firms reached out to did not respond, and several more declined to comment. However, Bob Fitzsimmons, Executive Vice President of Fixed Income Currencies and Commodities at ICE Clear US, member Wedbush Securities, said he had no concerns about ICE warehousing Bitcoin, though he did not reference its price. Quote, "Our understanding in this process is we would not be handling any of the cash Bitcoin or the spot Bitcoin or the spot digital currency, so there's no need for us to have the holding or the handling of it, which is one of the things that scares people," he said. "In terms of the future side, we're very comfortable." That being said, Wedbush may be an outlier in this view. As Fitzsimmons noted, the firm has long been involved in the crypto space, having published a research report on Bitcoin in 2013 and backing Coinbase early in the exchange's life. Not alone. With backed in regulatory limbo, it may not be the first company to offer physically settled Bitcoin futures in the U.S. LedgerX, which was founded in 2014 and received CFTC approval to offer Bitcoin derivative products in 2017, has offered swaps and options to American customers over the past 2 years, and now plans to offer its own physically settled futures contracts in coming weeks. Jessica Chow, the firm's COO, told CoinDesk that LedgerX applied to become a swap execution facility, SEF, and derivatives clearing organization, DCO, when it was founded. Like Bakkt, it took some time to get regulatory approval. In 2015, the company's application entered an extended public comment period before receiving a final go-ahead 2 years later. Only then did LedgerX self-certify its publicly settled options and swaps contracts, Chow explained. Or Cho, rather. My apologies. Under the CFTC's regulations, a company can self-certify that upcoming products fulfill legal and regulatory requirements rather than ask the agency to approve a new product. CFTC staff only reviews a product to ensure that it is compliant with the appropriate regulations. If a product violates any statute or rule, the CFTC can halt the product. Otherwise, the CFTC will allow a product to go forward. CBOE and CME both followed this process when launching its Bitcoin futures products just under 18 months ago. Because Bakkt wanted to use its own warehouse to custody Bitcoin, it did not follow this self-certification path. Cho noted that LedgerX holds its own Bitcoin on customers' behalf since the company has a DCO license. In other words, it operates its own clearinghouse and as such can conduct transactions directly with a buyer rather than operate through an intermediary, as Bakkt would go through ICE Clear. In turn, this means it can handle custody itself. LedgerX deals directly with our participants. We have no intermediaries, Chow said. Ironically, the model that cuts out the intermediaries is the safest one. Too many well-established Wall Street firms are used to dealing exclusively with intermediaries. Despite all the setbacks, Bakkt has continued to build up its platform, naming a board of directors, hiring executives, recruiting developers and managers, making an acquisition, and getting a $20 million to $25 million budget from its parent company, on top of a $182.5 million raised by outside investors, or from outside investors rather. Still, all in all, whether backed launches will depend on the CFTC and will require every last detail to match. As Giancarlo put it again, without mentioning any specific firm or application, it's often a fine detail in one protocol or another that makes all of the difference. You want to know how to get around all of this bullshit? Put your fucking clearinghouse in a regulatory jurisdiction that you can actually comply with their regulations and build up from there. You know, that might mean moving your primary estate to, say, Puerto Rico or the Isle of Man or Zug in Switzerland. There are plenty of places where you can get the credited kind of rating that you need, but all you really have to do is deliver. You know, if you're able to deliver on the promises that you're making to people, it looks really good. And when the CFTC wants to review you, they review your total performance. And if you're operating in another jurisdiction and you're faithful in that jurisdiction, it bodes well for you. You know, if you're able to perform well in an existing regulatory framework that you know it suits you, and you can operate as a legitimate player within it. Like I said, when they're reviewing your information and they're trying to decide whether or not they want to let you in, that having that history is a lot better than sitting around with your fucking thumb up your ass and leaving everybody saying, when backed, when backed, when backed. Give me a fucking break, man. This is the 21st century. You are not limited to doing business in the United States. If you can't get what you want here, go somewhere else. Pick up your ball and take the game elsewhere. Somebody else wants you to play your game on their court. And it might not be in the U.S. right now. But there are plenty of other regulatory jurisdictions that do overlap with the United States well enough for you to access some customers here in the United States. And again, that's an intersection that you should be investing your time in, not with the legacy markets that are existing right now. Because of course the NYDFS, they have the option to say no to you. But you know what? If they say yes to you and no to fucking Bittrex, that to me calls into the question their legitimacy as a regulatory body. And really, I don't think they should have their job as is, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And you know, I've been ignoring Anthrax. I think it's because it starts with an A. But I am out to rectify that. And so as far as where to go with this, let's go with some Anthrax and some worship music. And as far as the song goes, I dig The Giant. So that's the one here on Coin Metal. And that was Wayne Static with Around the Turn. Such a shame that he OD'd. Anywho, it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very, very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And as far as our last dance is concerned, I haven't actually picked anything out. You know how I am about that. I like to wait until the last minute. So here it is. Last Dance, Voivod, I Conspiracy. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening.